the former head of state, and of course, the presidential candidate of APC, a former head of state and presidential candidate of APC, General Muhammadu Buhari.
Your Excellency, the chairman of this occasion, the former Commonwealth Secretary General, Your Excellency, the President of Nigeria, Commander-in-Chief, the former Chief Justice of Nigeria, and distinguished ladies and gentlemen. The speeches so far by the chairman, by Professor Gambari, by chairman of INEC, and all those that contributed are based on hope. Some of these hopes are pious. Pious because of our nasty experiences. What happened in 2003, 2007, and 2011. We contested the general elections, and we all ended up in the Supreme Court. And these three Supreme Court judgments are available with the government printers for those that are really serious to know what is happening in our political developments. Because when the military eventually surrendered to the multi-party democratic system 16 years ago, we hope that the developed countries that went through the painful processes of stabilizing their system, we should learn from them rather than on insisting to make the same mistakes. I will give a few examples which I'm sure some of you will recall, or most of you will recall. In 2003, when we disagreed with the elections, we spent 30 months in court. Out of those 30 months in court, I know I could recall I only missed 4 sittings. Doesn't matter when they started, whether it's 7 in the morning to 11 in the night. The first one I missed was when we went to bury my vice presidential candidate, late Okadibo. The rest I was away out of the country. In 2007, we spent 18 months in court. And when we eventually reached the Supreme Court, on the day of the decision, the justices of the Supreme Court that formed the panel, there was 7 of them. 3 said they have annulled the election because it was not conducted according to law. 3 said, well, there were flaws, but all the same, the ruling party could have won. The Chief Justice of the Federation then looked at them, and he cast his vote with the second group. So we lost 4-3. In 2011, I said, I, as presidential candidate, will not go to court. But I made sure my party went to court. We sat there, I think, for about 9 months again. And again, it was the same story. There was no way the ruling party would lose judgment. This is a nasty experience, especially when I try to back it up with what actually happened in the field. For example, the one I referred to about how, in fact, the Supreme Court itself was split, and how that credible relative to the other international observer teams gave their own ruling saying that the election was messy. It was not credible. But I'll give you one example of 2011. From two states in the northern part of the country, we are lucky to get competent party agents. When results started coming in one of the big states, they tried to get the result that were announced or that were physically brought to INEC headquarters after going through the coalition areas and so on. They compared the result against the INEC register for that state and then put it in the computer. And the former added that garbage in, garbage out manifested itself. What came out is that the presidential candidate or the presidential candidate of that party was programmed to lose 40% of its scores. When it was then in another state, it was 60%, or it was 26%. So those very competent agents made a representation to INEC. They showed it to them. Of course, the INECs in charge of the state one must be computer literate. They showed them, this is what we got from the field. We cross-check it against your register. We put it into your computer, and the computer has been programmed to discount us by 26%. They say, okay. And then they went to INEC headquarters. It was agreed, yes. This thing is intellectual, so it's not a head or tail. They just brought the facts. They said, yes, let the party write officially. The party wrote, quoting the examples. Luckily, most of these chaps are now alive. Maybe some of them are here listening to me. We were given the assurance by INEC that they will look into it. The next thing we saw was the result being announced that we have lost the election. Another important one, 2011. Some of you know by name, maybe retired Justice Salami. He was heading the tribunal for the presidential candidate, which starts from High Court. And again, the opposition, we made a representation that in a number of states, the election was not conducted according to Electoral Act. The states were mentioned. And our representation is that we demanded the register to be brought to court to prove our case. The panel looked at it and said, yes, there's nothing wrong with it. And they wrote to INEC, INEC, Oya, go and produce this. It was not produced. Justice Salam was redeployed. Another justice was brought who reversed that decision. That has become history. The impression I hope that I've created is for those that have intellectually looked at about the processes of elections in Nigeria. I accept their hope, especially when we look at the Constitution as amended, how INEC comes in as an INEC Act to register political associations into political parties. And then the political parties that have filled the criteria and to be registered to make sure every person, from a councillor in a local government to the president himself, must come through a political party. That means a political party must be the platform. And then again, it was proceeded that before every election, there must be an electoral act. There was one, 2002, for 2003 election. There was one for 2006, for 2007 election. There was one for 2010 against the 2011 election. Last year, up to 31st of December, I was waiting for an amended electoral act for this year's election. I am yet to see one. So on paper, you can't catch Nigeria. You can't. You can only catch Nigeria in the field. Practical implementation. Go to any ministry, go to any parastatal, you will get administrative instruction, how the human beings, the workers, Nigerian, should be managed from floor cleaning one to the permanent secretary and to the minister when he eventually gets there. And you will get financial instruction, how to spend Naira and Kobo of Nigeria. But I'm afraid the personal experience, I have gone through the system. All these credible, intellectual, tested instructions, laws that were brought from the constitution of the party have been thrown into the waste paper basket in most cases. I'm very, very impressed. The chairman of this occasion and those who made contributions have agreed, they have seen how Nigeria is so competent on paper. And I hope you as part of the elite will help us to make 2015 election credible. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.